We all go through storms in life, right? Those big challenges that really test what we're made of. But today, we're not going to focus so much on the storm itself. Instead, drawing on this really powerful sermon from Pastor Ben Vallejo, we're going to talk about something that's maybe even more important. What happens after it's all over?
So that's the big question. It's not just about, hey, did you make it through? It's about the morning after. When the wind finally stops, the rain is gone, and the sun starts to peek out, what then? What choices do you make? That's really where the story gets interesting.
And to dig into this, Pastor Vallejo goes back to a classic story, one you might know from Matthew chapter 7, the parable of the two builders. It sounds simple on the surface, but the way he breaks it down, especially what happens after the storm hits, well, it's pretty profound.
Okay, so here's a really crucial point the sermon makes right at the beginning. This was a totally level playing field. Both of these builders, they're in the same spot, they get the exact same opportunity, they hear the same message from Jesus, and this is key. They face the exact same storm. Everything is identical.
And this is where it all hinges. The difference wasn't their circumstances, it was their choices. The prudent guy, he hears the words and he actually does something about it. He puts in the hard work to build on solid rock. The other guy, he hears the same thing, but, decides to take a shortcut, builds on sand because it's easy. So when that storm rolls in, the outcome is exactly what you'd expect. One house stands strong, and the other one is just gone. A total disaster.
All right, but this is where the sermon takes a fascinating turn. The storm is over, the immediate danger is past. Now the focus shifts to these two neighbors on that new, quiet morning.
So, for the prudent man, just picture it. He opens his front door, takes a deep breath of that clean post-storm air, and just feels this overwhelming sense of gratitude. His home is safe. He made it. This isn't just an ending, it's a new beginning, proof that his foundation held up. He's looking at a future full of hope.
And this quote just captures that feeling perfectly. Fuimos más fuertes en ti de lo que era mi tormenta. It basically means, we were stronger in you than my storm was. He gets it. His strength didn't just come from his own muscles. It came from the foundation, the principles he built his life on. It's this moment of humble, quiet victory.
But then, his gaze shifts next door, and what he sees is just total devastation. So how does the person whose entire life just fell apart react when they look over and see a house still standing perfectly fine? This is where the sermon gets really deep.
See, Pastor Vallejo doesn't just call it destruction. He gives it a name, a personality. He introduces this idea of ruin, not just as a pile of wood and debris, but as a dangerous, living mindset that can grow out of failure. And you've got to catch this definition. Ruin isn't just being sad that you failed. It's resentment. It's a mentality that instead of looking in the mirror and saying, wow, I really messed up building on sand, it looks next door and blames the person who succeeded. It absolutely refuses to take any responsibility.
And here's the dialogue he imagines between them, and it is so on point. Ruin says to success, the problem I'm having is because I needed something and you didn't give it to me. Think about that. Instead of asking, hey, what can I learn from you? Ruin goes on the attack. It claims its failure is somehow the successful neighbor's fault.
Ruin will try to change the story, right? It'll say, well, you didn't share your tools with me, or you didn't help me enough. But the sermon is crystal clear. That's just a distraction. Both builders had what they needed to build a house. The game-changing difference wasn't the tools they had, it was the foundation they chose.
So, if you're the prudent one, if your house is still standing, guess what? Your challenge isn't over, not by a long shot. In fact, a whole new kind of threat has just popped up. The question now becomes, how do you protect what you've worked so hard to build?
And this is such a powerful lesson for anyone who's made it through a tough time. You see, surviving the storm, that was just round one. The next challenge, and it's a tricky one, is protecting your peace, your home, from that corrosive mindset that's now sitting right next door.
So what do you do? The sermon lays out 4 really clear, practical steps. First, don't invite ruin into your house. You can offer help, sure, but don't let that bitterness and blame contaminate your space. Second, don't form alliances with imprudence. You know it's just going to repeat the same mistakes. Third, actively guard the peace of your home. Don't let the negativity in. And finally, and this is a big one, control your tongue. Don't get dragged into the pointless, bitter arguments that ruin loves to start.
All right, let's wrap this up and really boil it down to the core message, because this goes way beyond just a story about building a house.
So here's the breakdown. Number 1, storms are coming for all of us. That's a guarantee. Number 2,
The foundation you choose to build on, your character, your principles, your actions, that is what decides the outcome. 3. Real wisdom isn't just about surviving. It's about knowing how to protect your peace afterward. And finally, remember that the mindset of ruin is so dangerous because it attacks success instead of learning from its own mistakes.
And that leaves us with one final big question that turns this whole thing right back on us. As you look at your own life and the storms you know are coming, you got to ask yourself, what foundation are you building on? Is it solid rock, ready for the storm and for the morning after? Or is it sand?